How's it going, everyone? So right now we have this Honda. We just fixed it. We're going through the stage of stress testing it. Now, what do I mean by stress testing it? I want to make sure of this. Imagine this: your power goes out. Plug in. You go on the internet and you do the calculator, and the calculator says we recommend 2,500 watts. EM 2,500 watts. Perfect. And then you go on the internet and you find some dude not that far away. Says it ran fine 2 years ago. I'm just getting rid of it. You thinking score, you clean the carb and put it away. Next thing you know, power goes out and it doesn't do jack crap. We're going to help avoid that. So, first thing you want to get is either a multimeter if you have one. Not a lot of people do, and those can go from very expensive to very cheap. Or you can get something like this. It's called the Kilowatt. I like this because it's pretty easy. It's dumb. It involves a cable or a cord, and you don't have to worry about like shoving pins in anywhere, buying adapters, any of that crap. And it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's accurate enough for what you need. You're not, providing power to like NASA or something. First things first, I know this for a fact because I just got done running it, but check your throttle. It's on the top of your carburetor. Here's one for your instance. For example, if it moves freely, you're okay. I don't care if you put this away last week, if you put it away yesterday, unless you, like me, you literally just heard it run 10 minutes ago. Check your throttle. First thing you need to do. Second thing is disconnect all your nonsense if you have anything connected. Worst thing you could do for this type of generator, leave something plugged in, especially if it's on. If it's off, probably not an issue. But if it's on, not a good idea. I know it's snowing outside and power's out. You just want to plug everything in, pull, and give it a good going. No, don't do that. Take the extra couple seconds, save yourself a hassle. Next, everything's good to go. Oil's good. Check that already. Everything, make sure your motor is fine. Once you've done that, go ahead and proceed. If you have a Kilowatt, I just ordered a little extension cord off Amazon. It's like $4, and we're good to go. Now what we're doing is this. For this style of generator, we're going to expect probably anywhere between 128 to 134 watts at no load. If yours idles, then turn off to idle, and it will be at the same time. We'll see everything where it should. If yours doesn't idle, you don't have to worry about it. But basically this power isn't really all that great. It's good for big things, heaters, lights, maybe older refrigerators, nothing that has a lot of fine circuitry. But if you have stuff like that and you need something like this to run, then perfect, or not an issue. Having said that, the reason why it's so much higher is that there's no load. Instantly put a load on there, we're going to see that voltage drop. At least we should. And if we don't, we're going to make our necessary adjustments. The problem is, if we see it drop too low, that's a problem, because we don't want to have that low of a voltage. It means your engine's worn. There could be something wrong with the generator. Probably not, unless it instantly does that. Then you have a problem with your generator. And in fact, safety announcement: if you turn it on and you instantly hear a full load, that's a short. Turn that thing off immediately, because that potentially could cause a fire. And what's above the generator head? Usually a fuel tank. And what's in the fuel tank? Usually fuel. And fuel, at least where I live, burns very easily. So turn that off. Don't risk a fire. So what we're going to look for is this. We know the volts are going to be high. We know, I guess we don't know yet, but we're also going to see the frequency being high. Here where I live, might be different where you live, we're looking for roughly 60 hertz. Pretty standard. If it's going to be a little high, that's normal with a no load. 62, 63, maybe even 64. But once we put a load on there, we really don't want to see a dip beneath like 58. That's kind of like your moment. You could get all fancy, get like scopes and see the sine graph of everything. But if you're just going to be using this for simple little machines, it's really not necessary. But if you do this for a living, you want to provide good everything, go right ahead. Or if this was an inverter generator, then yes, you probably should be doing that. To be honest, if you have an inverter generator, you shouldn't really have to. But, well, that's a different story for a different day. Let's get it going. It's already warm. I shouldn't have to choke it. That's watts. Hertz. Pretty good. It's actually almost exactly where I wanted it. So what do we just witness? To be honest, this could use potentially a maintenance, or the motor could be getting a little warm. Let me explain why. I put a 1500 watt load on that. Technically this is a 2500 watt generator. If it got much lower than 58, you are really pushing it. Now there are, at least where I live, yet again, the volts didn't really go down, just the frequency. So I think the power head itself is pretty good, but potentially the motor needs maintaining. So what am I going to do after this? Maintenance the motor. More specifically, I'm going to adjust the valves. Hondas, especially overhead valve Hondas, I mean the old ones are flathead, so unless you have a really old one, you're going to have an OHV Honda. They need adjustment. Happens all the time. Also, this is something that's very overlooked. What quality is your fuel? I know for a fact this fuel is a little old. I know I shouldn't be using it, but there's like enough maybe for like 10 minutes of use in this. Not a whole lot. So I think if I mix it with fresh fuel, it should be better. But more likely than not, it's going to need maintaining. Now, if I saw 130 watts and it dips from like 62 hertz to like 61.5 or even 61 or 60.8 at that load, I would stop. There's no adjustment needed. If yours is a little low, let's say your hertz to begin with was under 61.5, 62. Every generator is a little bit different, but there's usually an adjustment screw somewhere. Hey, sorry about that. So I know it's kind of broken up, but unfortunately my camera got too hot. So what you just saw me doing is this. I adjusted the valves. The valves are a little out of adjustment. I went to cool, I adjusted the valves, and what I was saying is you need to check your AVR for that power output. You need to check your slip rings, your brushes if you have them. You need to check your capacitor. If your capacitor is out of spec, then go ahead and buy a new one. If you don't know, capacitors are cheap, go ahead and just throw one in there. But usually if they're out of spec, they're like way off. So if you're having power head issues and the motor doesn't seem to have a problem, then those would be the things I need to check. But we were having motor problems. And all I did is had to adjust the valves. And you saw under a decent load, it was pretty decent. We still have the old fuel, so I think that could be part of the problem. But if you're having motor problems, check the fuel, do a maintenance check to make sure it's running at the right speed, 62-ish hertz when using your multimeter, or when you're using your kilowatt. There we go. And I was even thinking about adjusting the speed because it seemed like it got a little lower, but I didn't really need to, because after I was kind of looking at it, it was 61.8, 62. It's fine, so I'm just going to put this away. Don't really need to be much higher than that at the end of the day. Anyway, so you have your engine, do your maintenance, all that stuff. If that's not the problem, check those other items and you should be good to go. If it's not, you're either going to need to rebuild or a new power head, unfortunately, the way it is. So kind of a weird video, I understand. This is just my way of figuring out if this is a healthy generator. If the engine speed doesn't dip that much beyond a certain point under decent load, it's okay. Doesn't mean you can't use it still if it's yours, you know, whatever the case is. Just realize that if it gets too low, you're going to need to rebuild. If your generator head isn't creating the right power you should be having, you might need to buy a new AVR or adjust it, new brushes, clean the slip rings, new capacitor, whatever your case is. And just realize that if you do all that and still having a problem, it might just be time to retire it. So if you're having this issue, definitely put a thumbs up. This helped you out. Follow me on Instagram at SmallEngine101. If you like what you see, keep watching, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. You have a good night.